No one in Maribel Springs ever noticed the quiet waitress behind the counter until the morning she raised her hands, spoke in silence, and made the whole town remember what Grace looked like.
Hello, if you're ready to hear the whole story, click subscribe and tap the notification bell. Type in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as touching as this one, or maybe even crazier. And you don't want to miss it. Now let's begin.
The Kansas sun hung high and merciless over the highway, turning the parking lot of Donnelly's Diner into a shimmering field of white heat. The air hummed with diesel engines and cicadas. The smell of fried onions and motor oil clung to everything. Inside the diner, Ray Walker sat alone at the counter, shoulders slouched, eyes fixed on the half-melted ice in his glass of sweet tea. His hands were rough and chapped from years on the wheel, his nails permanently rimmed with grease. The clock above the coffee maker ticked too loudly. Noon. He should have been halfway to Oklahoma by now, but he couldn't shake the weight in his chest. A little girl's birthday card peeked from his jacket pocket. Pink, crumpled, unsigned. His ex-wife had sent him a photo last week. Their daughter, Lacey, turning 8 without him. He'd looked at the picture until the guilt made him sick. Then he'd folded it away and kept driving. Donna, wiping the counter, caught him staring into space. "You okay there, hun? You've been nursing that tea for 40 minutes." Ray forced a smile. "Just cooling off before the next run." "You said that half an hour ago." "Guess I'm not good at leaving." He pushed his cap down over his eyes, pretending he hadn't said it aloud. Outside, a semi hissed to a stop, brakes squealing. The sound rolled through the diner like a sigh. Truckers came and went. Ray stayed still. 2 miles down Route 66, Amira Collins sat in the back seat of a faded blue sedan, her knees pulled tight to her chest. The car's interior smelled like gasoline and old cigarettes. Her father, Malcolm, gripped the steering wheel too hard, veins standing out on his forearms. The air conditioner rattled, but blew no cold. "Stop squirming back there," he muttered. Amira hugged her torn teddy bear closer. "I'm thirsty." "You can wait. We'll stop soon." She nodded, eyes fixed on the passing road signs. Baxter Springs, 3 miles. Her heart pounded faster with every mile. She knew this stretch of road. It was where Mama used to sing along to the radio before she was gone. Back then, her father used to smile. He didn't smile anymore. When the diner's red and white sign came into view, she felt something inside her whisper, "Now." "Daddy, can I use the bathroom?" Her voice trembled. Malcolm exhaled sharply. "Fine, but make it quick." He swung the sedan into the lot, dust curling behind them. The instant the car slowed, Amira's hand went to the door handle. She could see the truckers through the window, big man with sunburned faces, laughing, moving, alive, safe. Maybe. His father reached for his wallet. "Don't make me come after you, Amira. You hear me?" "Yes, sir," but she was already pushing the door open. Inside the diner, Ray's fork froze halfway to his mouth when he heard the car doors slam. Then came a small voice, thin and desperate, cutting through the roar of engines. "Please, somebody help me!" Every head turned. A tiny girl in a yellow dress was running barefoot across the asphalt, curls bouncing, eyes wide with terror. A man jumped from the driver's seat, shouting after her. Ray's gut clenched. His first thought was, keep out of it. The second was, she looks just like Lacey. The girl darted between 2 rigs, tripped, scrambled up again. Her teddy bear hit the ground. She didn't stop for it. Ray pushed away from the counter. Donna shouted, "Ray, don't you go playing hero!" But he was already out the door. The sunlight hit him like fire. Heat rippled off the pavement as he ran. The girl nearly collided with him, stumbling into his arms. She smelled of sweat and dust and fear. Hey, hey, he said softly, crouching down. It's okay. You're safe now. She looked up at him, trembling. Please, hide me from my baddie. The words came out broken, but they cut straight through him. He turned toward the road. The man was coming fast, shouting something about a misunderstanding. Ray's pulse hammered. It's okay, Ray murmured again, though his own voice shook. Amira clutched her teddy bear tighter. Something small fell from her pocket, a folded piece of paper. It flittered to the ground between them. Ray picked it up. It was a photo. A woman and a little girl standing in front of the same blue sedan. The woman's face was bruised. He stared at it too long. The man's voice grew louder. Hey, that's my kid. She's scared, that's all. Come here, baby. Ray's jaw tightened. She doesn't look scared, mister. She looks terrified. Malcolm's smile was all teeth. You don't know what you're getting into. Maybe not, Ray said. He stepped back, putting himself between them. Amira's breathing came in quick, hiccuped bursts. Ray's hand hovered near her shoulder, not touching, just close enough that she could feel steadiness radiating from him. The other truckers were watching now, the whole diner gone silent. Donna stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. Everything okay out here? Malcolm's voice softened too fast. Yeah, my girl got spooked. Long drive, that's all. Ray looked down at Amira. She shook her head ever so slightly, eyes begging. That tiny motion decided everything. Sir, Ray said, keeping his voice even, why don't we let her sit inside and cool off? Looks like she's had a rough ride. I said she's fine, Malcolm snapped. Donna's tone cut through the air. Then you won't mind if she gets a glass of water. For a long, tense second, no one moved. Then Malcolm's smile faltered. Whatever. She just better not make a scene. He turned and stalked back to his car. Ray exhaled. His heart was still pounding as he led Amira toward the diner door. Hungry, kiddo? She nodded faintly. Can I sit where it's cold? You got it. Inside, the air conditioner hummed like salvation. Donna poured her a cup of ice water. Amira gripped it with both hands, shoulders shaking. Ray sat across from her, trying not to stare at the photo he'd slipped into his pocket. He should call the police. He should walk away. But her small voice whispered, Thank you for helping me. And he knew he wouldn't. Outside, the sedan's engine idled. The man wasn't gone. If you were sitting in that diner and saw a child like Amira run across the lot begging for help, what would you have done? Call for help or step in yourself? Share your thoughts below.
The diner's hum felt different now. What used to be the harmless rattle of dishes and truck engines had turned into something sharp, a vibration of nerves running beneath the surface. Ray sat in the corner booth, the child across from him, both pretending to be calm. Amira's yellow dress clung damply to her legs. She sipped her water in quick, nervous swallows, eyes darting to the window every few seconds. Outside, the blue sedan hadn't moved. Malcolm leaned on its hood, smoking, his eyes hidden behind mirrored sunglasses. Every exhale drifted toward the diner door, like a warning. Ray's gut twisted. He'd seen 100 men like that on the road, quiet rage beneath a calm face. He could almost feel it radiating through the glass. Donna slid a plate of fries onto the table. For her, she said softly, on the house. Amira stared at the food but didn't reach for it. I'm not supposed to eat unless Daddy says. Ray felt something inside him split. You're safe right now. You can eat. Her small hand hesitated before grabbing one fry. Grease shimmered on her fingers. She licked it off with a guilty glance toward the window. Ray pretended not to notice. Where's your mom? He asked gently. The question made her freeze. She looked down, pushing crumbs around the plate. She's gone. Daddy said she left us. Donna, standing nearby, caught Ray's eye. The same look passed between them, skepticism mixed with dread. A minute later, the bell above the diner door jingled. The sound cut through the heat like a blade. Malcolm Collins stepped inside. The smell of smoke followed him. He removed his sunglasses slowly, scanning the room with a too pleasant smile. "There you are, sweetheart." His voice oozed warmth, practiced and false. "I scared you half to death." Amira's shoulders tensed. She didn't move. Ray rose slightly, palms flat on the table. "She's fine. She needed some air." "I can see that." "Mr. Walker, is it? Thanks for keeping an eye on her. We'll be heading out now." "She doesn't look ready to leave." "Excuse me?" Ray steadied his voice. "She's shaking, sir. Maybe let her rest a while." The din in the diner died completely. Even the fry cook stopped moving. Malcolm's smile stiffened. "I appreciate your concern, but this is family business." "You got kids, Mr. Walker?" Ray hesitated. "Yeah." "Then you know how they get sometimes. Crying, running off, making folks think the world's ending. Let's not blow things out of proportion." Amira flinched at the word crying. Donna stepped closer, dish towel slung over her shoulder. "No one's blowing anything. The girl just needed water." Malcolm's eyes flicked to her, dismissive, calculating, then back to Ray. "I'm taking my daughter. You can step aside." He reached out. Amira recoiled so fast her chair screeched against the floor. That sound ripped through Ray like a spark through dry tinder. "Don't touch her," he said quietly. "Excuse me?" "I said don't touch her." Malcolm's voice lost all sweetness. "You got some nerve, trucker. You don't know a damn thing about us." Ray didn't blink. "Maybe not, but I know what fear looks like." They stared at each other, two men measuring the cost of what would happen next. Amira's breath came in tiny gasps. She slid lower in her seat, gripping her bear so tight its stuffing showed. Donna moved behind the counter toward the phone. "I think it's time we got the sheriff out here," she said, trying to keep her tone even. Malcolm's hand twitched. "That won't be necessary." "I think it will," Ray said. The door creaked again as Lucas Boyd, a younger trucker, stepped in. He'd been fueling his rig, curiosity drawn by the tension bleeding through the glass. "Everything all right in here?" Malcolm's jaw flexed. "Stay out of it." Lucas's voice came lazy but firm. "Doesn't look all right." The air inside the diner thickened. Sunlight from the windows made halos of sweat on everyone's skin. Outside, cicadas screamed loud enough to drown thought. Then, Amira's small voice broke the silence. "Please don't make me go." Her words hung there like a prayer no one wanted to hear. Malcolm's control cracked. "Enough!" He slammed his palm on the table. The water glass toppled, spilling across Ray's jeans. Amira jumped. Every patron froze. Ray stood fully now, water dripping down his thigh, his eyes never leaving Malcolm's. "You need to back off, right now." Malcolm breathed hard, nostrils flaring. "You think you're saving her? You're making it worse." "Then maybe she needs worse if it gets her out of that car," Ray shot back. His hands were trembling, not from fear, but from something older, memory. For a second, Malcolm looked ready to swing. Then he smiled instead, a slow, venomous curve. "Suit yourself. Sheriff will set it straight." He turned on his heel, shoved the door open so hard the bell clanged against the frame, and stalked out into the heat. Through the window, Ray watched him light another cigarette and make a phone call. His expression was flat, but something in his movements told Ray this wasn't over. Donna locked the door behind him. "We'll call dispatch ourselves," she said. "He's trouble." Ray sank back into the booth. His pulse was still hammering. Amira crawled across the seat and pressed herself against him, small fingers gripping his sleeve. He didn't hug her back immediately. His hands hovered in the air, unsure, then settled gently around her shoulders. She was shaking so hard he could feel every tremor. "It's okay," he whispered. "He's gone for now." Her face pressed against his chest. "He said I'd get in trouble if I talked." "You did nothing wrong." "I can't go back." He closed his eyes, the words sinking like stones. Outside, Malcolm's car engine roared to life, idled, then cut off again. The man wasn't leaving. He looked toward Donna, who was on the phone with the sheriff's office. She met his gaze, mouthed, "They're sending someone." He nodded, but unease gnawed at him. He reached into his pocket, felt the folded photo he'd picked up earlier. For some reason it felt heavier now. as if it carried a secret he hadn't yet seen. Amira pulled back enough to look up at him. "You believe me, don't you?" He hesitated just a heartbeat too long. Her chin trembled. "Nobody ever believes me." He forced himself to meet his eyes. "I do, I promise." And for the first time she believed him, if only because he sounded like he was trying to convince himself to. Outside, a horn blared on the highway, breaking the fragile calm. The day went on, sunlight unblinking, as though the world hadn't just shifted inside that tiny diner.
The sheriff arrived 30 minutes later, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and the calm of someone used to defusing roadside chaos. His badge read Sheriff Danvers, and his uniform smelled faintly of dust and old leather. Behind him, the sun had climbed high enough to bleach the asphalt white. "Morning, folks," he said, pushing through the diner door. "Got a call about a domestic concern?" Malcolm was already sitting at the counter, calm as stone, stirring sugar into his coffee as if he hadn't just terrified a room full of people. Amira shrank behind Ray in the booth. Donna crossed her arms tightly, lips pressed in a straight line. "That's him. That's the man she was hiding from." Danvers gave a small nod, eyes scanning the room. "All right, let's slow down and sort this out. Everyone take a breath." Ray clenched his jaw. Slow down felt like a slap to the gut. There was nothing slow about a little girl's terror. Malcolm flashed a sad smile. "Sheriff, this has gotten way out of hand. My daughter, well, she's been going through a tough spell since her mom passed. Ran off while I was gassing up." Amira whispered, barely audible. "He's lying." The sheriff's gaze flicked to her, then back to Malcolm. "That's true, honey? You ran off?" Amira's throat worked. No sound came out. Ray leaned forward. "Sheriff, look, she came to me begging for help. She said she was scared of her father." Danvers sighed through his nose. "Mr. Walker, right? I appreciate you looking out for her, but unless there's evidence of harm," Donna cut him off, "you can see she's terrified." Malcolm's calm deepened, rehearsed. "Kids get scared when they're confused, ma'am." Ray felt fury burn beneath his ribs. Every word out of Malcolm's mouth was poison disguised as reason. Amira clutched her stuffed bear tighter, so tight the stitches stretched. "Please don't make me go," she whispered again, voice cracking. The sheriff shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, why don't you step outside with me? Let's talk this through." Malcolm rose smoothly. "Gladly." He turned toward Amira with a soft smile that only made her tremble harder. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll be home soon." Ray's knuckles went white against the table. He wanted to stand, to shout, but the weight of the law and of every bad memory that had ever kept him quiet pressed him down. The door closed behind the two men. The silence they left behind felt like vacuum. Donna muttered softly, "You think he's actually going to believe that man?" Ray didn't answer. He stared at the window, at the two figures outside in the glare of daylight. The sheriff talking, Malcolm gesturing with open palms, charm pouring out like oil. Amira tugged his sleeve. She said, "They never listen." Voice hollow, too old for her age. "He says he loves me, but love shouldn't hurt, right?" Ray's throat went tight. "No, it shouldn't." Her words echoed something buried in him, a voice from years ago, a smaller hand, another frightened child, his own daughter before the divorce. "You said you'd come to my recital, Daddy." He blinked hard, pushing the memory away. A few minutes later, the door opened again. The sheriff re-entered, hat in hand. "All right, here's what we're going to do," he said gently. "Mr. Collins will take her daughter home. I'll follow them to make sure everything's calm." "No." Ray's voice came out rough, almost a growl. "You can't do that." Danvers frowned. "Sir, she's scared out of her mind. You send her back, you're gambling with her life." Malcolm placed a hand on his chest, the picture of patience. "I can promise you she's fine. She's just confused." Ray stood up so fast the chair screeched across the floor. "She's not confused. Look at her." The diner had gone dead quiet again. Only the buzzing neon sign above the counter hummed faintly. Danvers handed up a hand. "Mr. Walker, I need you to calm down." "I am calm," he said through clenched teeth. "But if you hand her over, you'll regret it." Malcolm smiled faintly.
You're done? Amira was crying silently now, shoulders shaking. Please, she whispered again. Something in that word snapped Ray's restraint. He stepped between her and Malcolm. She's not going anywhere. Danvers tensed. Ray, don't make this harder. She came to me for help. That means something. Malcolm's voice turned sharp. You're out of line. You've been out of line since the day she learned to flinch when you raise your hand, Ray shot back. The sheriff's radio crackled, breaking the tension. A dispatcher's voice came through, muffled but urgent. Danvers, you copy? Need you at Route 9, possible crash. He cursed softly under his breath. The timing couldn't be worse. He looked between them, between Ray's fury and Malcolm's cold smile. All right, he said. Mr. Collins, take her home for now. I'll check back later. Ray couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're just letting him... Enough, Danvers said firmly. You are not her guardian, Mr. Walker. And that was that. Law wrapped around injustice like barbed wire around a wound. Malcolm extended his hand toward Amira. She didn't move. Her body went rigid. He grabbed her wrist, yanking her up with a forced smile. Say goodbye to your new friends, honey. Ray's heart thundered. Donna's voice cracked as she whispered, Do something. He wanted to. God, he wanted to. But the sheriff stood between them, palm resting on his holster, eyes weary but warning. Amira looked back over her shoulder, tears glinting in the diner light. You said you believed me, she said, barely audible. Ray's throat caught. He wanted to promise again, to shout it, but the words wouldn't form before the door closed and sunlight swallowed them both. The diner felt emptier than it had all morning. Donna cursed softly, slammed the coffee pot onto the counter. He just let her go, that poor baby. Ray's chest heaved. She's not safe. You're right. So, what are you going to do about it? Ray stared at the window where the car had been. I don't know yet, he murmured, but the truth was already building inside him like an oncoming storm. Because when he'd leaned forward to seize Amira moments earlier, his hand had brushed her pocket. He'd felt the crinkle of something, paper maybe, plastic, and her whispered, Don't show him. He'd slipped it into his jacket without thinking. Now, as the diner returned to its nervous chatter, Ray reached inside and felt it again. A small folded photograph, and something harder behind it. He didn't look yet. He couldn't. Not while the sheriff's taillights were still visible down the road. But he knew, deep in the pit of his chest, that whatever was in that pocket would change everything.
The road shimmered like glass beneath the afternoon heat. Ray's rig rolled steady but fast, the diesel growl humming through his bones. He told himself he wasn't chasing them, just following the same route out of town. But that was a lie. He could still see the flash of Amira's tear-streaked face behind the sedan's rear window. She had looked straight at him, not pleading, not even scared anymore, just resigned, like someone who'd already stopped believing help would come. He'd driven trucks for 20 years. He'd seen wrecks, fights, lonely endings in motel parking lots, but never had he felt this kind of helpless rage. The folded photo in his pocket burned against his chest. When he finally pulled over at the truck stop outside Roseland, Louisiana, Malcolm's blue sedan was already parked near the edge of the lot, the trunk open. Amira was sitting on the curb, her bare limp in her lap. Malcolm talked on his phone a few steps away, voice clipped and low. Ray killed the engine, heart thudding. He told himself, You don't meddle, you've done enough. But then Amira looked up, saw him, and she smiled. Not a happy smile, a desperate one, the kind that says, You came back. Ray exhaled sharply. All right, he muttered. All right. He climbed down, crossed the heat-slick pavement, and crouched beside her. Hey, Bug, he said quietly. You okay? She blinked at him. You came. Guess I did. He nodded toward Malcolm. He treating you all right? She shook her head once, almost imperceptibly, then whispered, He said, if I talk, he'll... Her eyes darted toward her father. Ray cut her off gently. You don't have to say it. Malcolm turned, saw him. You again? He walked over, fake smile plastered on. I told you to stay out of this. I'm just talking to her. You're harassing my family. She doesn't look like she feels safe, Mr. Collins. Malcolm took a step closer, his shadow cutting across Amira. You don't know a damn thing about safety. Before Ray could reply, a sudden shriek of sirens cut through the air. 2 patrol cars pulled into the lot, lights flashing. Sheriff Danvers climbed out, expression grim. Both of you, back up, now. Malcolm straightened. Sheriff, thank God, this man... Save it, Danvers said, eyes locked on Ray. We need to talk. You follow him here? Ray opened his mouth, but Danvers held up a hand. Don't. You're not in the clear, Walker. You could have made things worse. Worse? Ray snapped. That girl begged for help. Danvers looked tired. You're not the law. Neither are you if you're sending her back to... Enough! Amira stood, shaking. Please don't fight. The sheriff's gaze softened just slightly. Honey, come with me, okay? Let's get you some air. She hesitated, then nodded. Malcolm's jaw tightened. You can't just take her like that. Danvers turned. I can, if I suspect abuse. You'll answer questions at the station. Malcolm's voice rose. This is ridiculous. Sit down, Danvers snapped. Ray stood silent, every muscle tight. He should have felt relief. Instead, he felt the sick churn of uncertainty. What if the sheriff still doesn't believe her? What if they hand her back? He glanced toward the cruiser. Amira was watching him through the window, small hand pressed to the glass. The sight tore him open. If you were in Ray's shoes, would you have followed the car, risking your job and maybe your freedom just to make sure that little girl was safe? Let me know in the comments what you think you would have done. At the station, everything blurred. Questions, paperwork, cold coffee. Danvers made Ray wait outside the interview room while a female deputy talked to Amira. Through the one-way glass, I could see the girl sitting on a tall chair, feet swinging, Bear on her lap. She was whispering, pausing often, as if every word cost her courage. Malcolm sat across from Ray in the waiting area, staring at the wall. For a man who'd spent the morning full of arrogance, he now looked oddly pale. You think you're some kind of hero, Malcolm muttered. Ray didn't answer. You don't know what it's like to raise a kid alone. She's wild, lies about everything. Ray turned his head slowly. She doesn't lie about fear. Malcolm's lip curled. You'll see, the law always sides with the loudest story. Then I hope hers is loud enough to drown yours out. The man sneered, but said nothing more. Minutes stretched into hours. The hum of the vending machine filled the silence. Finally, the door opened and Danvers stepped out. His face was unreadable. Mr. Collins, you'll need to stay in town until we verify some things. Malcolm stood. You can't hold me. I can, and I will. Then Danvers turned to Ray. Mr. Walker, you're free to go, but don't leave the county until we close this out. Ray frowned. And the girl? She's going to a temporary care placement tonight. Safer that way. Ray exhaled. Good. But as he walked out into the fading daylight, something still gnawed at him. Safety was temporary. He knew that better than anyone. He reached his truck, climbed into the cab, and finally pulled the folded photo from his pocket. It was worn, edges frayed. A little girl, Amira, stood beside a woman who looked too tired to smile. Behind them, a rusted trailer, weeds waist-high. On the back, in a shaky hand, someone had written 2 words, Find Mama. Beneath the photo, the small flash drive gleamed faintly. He didn't plug it in. Not yet, but his jaw set hard. Because now he knew this wasn't over.
The next few days moved like the wide Kansas sky. Quiet at first, but always hinting at thunder. Ray had parked his rig behind the Sunburst Diner, its paint sun-bleached and flaking, the smell of coffee and diesel always hanging in the air. He'd been helping Donna with deliveries between El Dorado and Wichita, trying to stay busy, trying to forget the image of that trembling little girl in the truck stop parking lot. But forgetting wasn't working. Amira was still at the county children's shelter, waiting for placement. He'd stopped by once to drop off her backpack, and she'd run to the door like a sunflower bending toward light. The staff told him she didn't talk much, except when asking if the truck man was coming back. That was enough to tear something loose inside him. This morning, the prairie wind was sharp and dry, carrying dust from the fields. Ray sat on the diner's porch steps, hands wrapped around a cup of black coffee. He stared at the horizon until the air shimmered, trying to convince himself he didn't need to get involved any deeper. But then he saw Marla, the social worker, crossing the parking lot toward him. She carried a folder and that tired look of someone who's seen too many broken families. "Morning," she said, pushing her hair back as the wind tugged at it. "Morning," he muttered, still watching the road. "You found her dad?" Marla sighed, sitting beside him on the steps. "We found something, but it's not simple." Ray turned, eyes narrowing. "What does that mean?" She opened the folder. Inside were 2 photographs, one of Amira at the shelter, clutching her teddy bear, and one of a man with tired eyes and an orange jumpsuit. Her voice softened. "Her father's in Sedgwick County Jail. DUI, neglect, and outstanding warrants. The girl's mother passed 2 years ago, overdose in Topeka." Ray stared at the photo, his jaw tightening. The wind picked up, scattering napkins across the lot. "She's been bounced around between relatives," Marla continued, "but none of them want custody. We're searching for foster options now. You should know she listed your name when we asked who she trusted." That last line hit him like a blow. He looked down at his hands, scarred, oil-stained, trembling slightly. "She doesn't even know me." "Sometimes," Marla said quietly, "that's exactly why." That night, the storm came. Kansas storms don't whisper. They roar across the plains with light and fury. Donna had closed the diner early, but Ray couldn't sleep. The sound of rain hammering the tin roof made the walls hum. He poured himself another coffee, staring out the window at the dark shapes of grain silos lit by lightning. A small, desperate part of him wanted to drive, to get back behind the wheel, outrun the memories clawing their way up. But another part, one that had been buried since his own daughter's death 5 years ago, told him to stay. He pulled open the glove box of his rig and took out an old photo. A little girl with auburn braids and a missing tooth grinned back at him. Lydia. He whispered her name like a confession. That was when headlights flashed across the diner lot, a county van. He froze as the door opened and Marla stepped out, soaked and breathless. She wouldn't stop crying, begging for you. "We're overcrowded at the shelter, and the storm knocked out power. Can she stay here tonight?" Ray's throat tightened. "Here?" "It's temporary," she said quickly. "Just until morning. We'll get a placement sorted tomorrow." Ray hesitated. Lightning split the sky behind her, throwing her into silhouette. And then he saw the small figure in the van, Amira, hugging her bear, eyes wide and wet. He nodded. "Yeah, bring her in." Inside, the diner felt strangely alive again. Amira sat on the counter, swinging her legs as Donna made hot chocolate. The storm raged outside, but she looked calmer, safe. Ray leaned against the doorway, watching her. "Where's your bear's name from?" he asked gently. "His name's Button. Mama said he keeps secrets." "He's good at that, huh?" She nodded solemnly, then reached into her pocket. "You want to see what's inside?" Before he could answer, she pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn and smudged. She handed it to him with small, trembling fingers. Ray unfolded it carefully. It was a crayon drawing, a big truck under a rainbow, a stick-figure girl holding hands with a tall man. Underneath, in crooked letters, it said, "Me and Daddy. Someday." The room seemed to shrink. Donna stopped wiping the counter. Even the storm outside felt quieter. Ray's chest tightened. "Amira, this your dad?" She shook her head slowly. "No, it's who I want him to be." He couldn't speak. Later that night, when she finally drifted to sleep in the booth, clutching her bear, Ray sat across from her, elbows on the table. The paper lay in front of him, its edges damp from her small hands. Donna came over, pouring him more coffee. "You okay?" He nodded vaguely. She shouldn't have to hope for something like that. Donna's voice softened. "Maybe you think maybe you're the one she's hoping for." He looked at the child, her steady breathing, the way her curls framed her face, then back at the drawing. "She deserves better than me." Donna smiled sadly. "Maybe better just means someone who stays." Lightning flashed again, painting the diner in silver. Outside, the storm kept pounding. But inside, for the first time in years, Ray didn't feel like running.
By morning, the storm had moved east, leaving the air washed clean and bright. The wheat fields outside the diner shimmered with water like broken glass. Ray stood on the porch steps, coffee steaming in his hand, watching sunlight climb across the plain. For once, the highway was quiet. No engines, no horns, just the faint whistle of wind through prairie grass. Inside, Amira sat at a booth, coloring on a paper playmat. Donna had given her a box of crayons and a leftover pancake, which she nibbled as she drew. The bear, Button, sat beside her with one ear bent and a syrup stain on its paw. Marlowe was already gone, off to Wichita to handle the paperwork, but she'd left a note. "Keep her until the next placement call. Thank you." He read it twice, then folded it into his pocket like something fragile. He wasn't sure what scared him more, the idea of her leaving or the idea that she might not. "What you drawing, kiddo?" he asked, sliding into the booth across from her. Amira looked up, eyes sparkling. "It's a map." "A map, huh?" She pointed to the squiggly lines. "This is the road, this is your truck, this is me, and this," she held up a yellow crayon and drew a big circle, "this is home." Ray stared at the circle. "Looks like the middle of nowhere." She giggled. "Exactly!" Her laughter was light, unexpected, and something in him softened. "Mind if I add something?" he asked. She nodded eagerly. He picked up the blue crayon and drew a small creek running beside her circle. "See this? That's El Dorado Creek. Used to fish there when I was about your size." Amira tilted her head. "You had a dad who took you fishing?" His hand stilled on the paper. "Nah," he said quietly. "He wasn't around much. Learned from a neighbor." "So you teached yourself?" He smiled faintly. "Something like that." They spent the rest of the morning outside, walking along the edge of the creek behind the diner. The prairie stretched for miles, gold and endless. Amira stopped often to pick dandelions, blowing their seeds into the wind. "You ever make wishes?" she asked. "Used to," she said. "What happened?" He thought about Lydia again, his own daughter, and the night the highway took everything from him. He swallowed hard. "Guess I ran out." Amira stared at him a long moment, then plucked another dandelion and held it out. "You can borrow one of mine." He almost laughed. "How many you got?" She grinned. "1,000,000!" He took the flower, held it up to the light, and blew. The seeds scattered across the breeze like tiny ghosts. "Now you gotta promise it'll come true." "What if it doesn't?" "Then we make another." It was such a simple answer, but it broke something open inside him. By midday, the sun was high and the diner hummed with the sound of passing truckers. Donna kept an eye on them, but said little. Just slid them sandwiches and smiled when Amira told jokes that didn't make sense. After lunch, Ray fixed a loose hinge on the screen door while Amira played nearby, arranging rocks into pretend cities. Every few minutes, she'd call his name just to make sure he was still there. "Mr. Walker." "Yeah? You ever been on TV?" "I don't think so." "You could be," she said, seriously. "You look like somebody who saves people." That line stopped him cold. He wiped sweat from his brow. "Kiddo, I ain't saved much in my life." "Sure you did," she said, eyes bright. "You stopped for me." He didn't answer, just tightened the hinge until it squeaked no more. Then, softer than before, he said,
guess maybe I did." That evening, after dinner, they sat on the diner's rooftop patio. Just a stretch of tin with 2 folding chairs and a view of the endless sky. The horizon blazed orange. Amira leaned against him, her small frame warm through the denim of his jacket. "Do you miss your girl?" she asked suddenly. He froze. The question felt like a knife turned gentle. "How'd you know about her?" she murmured. "You said her name in your sleep." He stared at the horizon. "Yeah, I miss her. What happened?" He took a long breath. "Car accident. Her mom and we were fighting. I left angry. Road was slick that night. She never made it home." Amira's hand found his. "That's sad." "Yeah," he said hoarsely. "It is." They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the wind move across the plains. Finally, Amira spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "She'd be happy you found me." He turned to her. "You think so?" She nodded. "Maybe she asked God to send you." The words hit him deeper than any sermon ever had. He looked at the child, this brave, tiny girl who carried hope like sunlight, and something inside him began to heal. Later, when he carried her inside, she was already asleep, her hands still clutching Button. He laid her gently on the booth seat and watched her breathe, her curls fanned across the cushion. Donna came over quietly. "You're good with her," she said. "Didn't know I could be," he whispered. "Maybe that's the point." He gave a tired smile. "Think she's going to have to leave tomorrow?" Donna shrugged. "That's up to the state, but maybe up to you, too." He frowned. "How's that?" "Ray, sometimes the people meant to save us don't show up. Sometimes we have to decide to stay." He looked back at the sleeping girl, the bear, the drawing still tucked in his pocket. The diner hummed softly, the coffee pot, the old jukebox, the quiet tick of the clock. For the first time in years, Ray felt something close to peace. That night, before turning off the lights, he whispered into the dim. "Hey, kiddo, maybe tomorrow we'll go fishing." Amira stirred in her sleep, smiling faintly as if she'd heard him through a dream.
By the next afternoon, the air felt heavier, like the weather couldn't decide what it wanted to do. Clouds stacked over the plains, gray and full of threat. Inside the diner, everything looked normal. Donna wiping counters, trucks humming on the highway, a local farmer arguing about pie. But under that surface calm, something was shifting. Ray had just finished changing the oil in his rig when a county car pulled up. The seal on the door said, "Sedgwick County Child Services." His gut tightened instantly. Marla stepped out, folder in hand, looking more nervous than usual. "Ray," she said, "we need to talk." He knew that tone. It was the one social workers used before taking something away. "Go on," he said, voice flat. "We found a relative," she said quietly. "Aunt on the mother's side. Lives in Dodge City. She's agreed to take Amira." The wrench in his hand slipped, clattering to the pavement. "You're moving her?" Marla's expression softened. "It's protocol. Family placement always comes first." "Family?" He almost laughed. "Where was this family when she was hiding from her dad under a truck stop light?" "Ray, I understand." "No, you don't." His voice rose, sharp and raw. "You drop her with some stranger because they share a last name and you call that justice?" Marla stepped closer, lowering her tone. "It's the law, and you know I don't make it." He turned away, fists clenching, the horizon blurred. "I'll be back tomorrow morning," she said gently. "You can say goodbye." Then she was gone, the county car disappearing down the dusty road. Inside, Amira sat on the floor, sorting sugar packets into piles. When she saw his face, her smile faltered. "What's wrong?" He crouched beside her. "Hey, you remember how you said you wanted to see more of Kansas?" She nodded slowly. "Well, looks like you're going to take a trip, meet some new people." Her small shoulders stiffened. "You mean I got to go?" He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just for a while." Amira's lip quivered. "Did I do something bad?"
That cracked him wide open. "No, sweetheart, you didn't do a thing wrong." "Then why?" He swallowed hard, words burning on his tongue. "Sometimes grown-ups mess things up. That's all." She stared at him, tears welling. "But you said we'd go fishing." He felt the air go out of him. "I know." "Did you lie?" He shook his head, voice breaking. "No, baby, I meant it." "Then don't let him take me." Her plea came out as a whisper, but it hit like a scream. He gathered her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "If I could stop it, I would." That night, thunder rolled again, not as wild as before, but enough to rattle the windows. Amira slept fitfully in the booth, her bear tucked against her chest. Ray sat at the counter staring at nothing. Every sound felt too loud, the coffee pot gurgle, the buzz of the sign outside, the ticking of the wall clock marking time he couldn't stop. Donna sat across from him, arms folded. "You can't just let him take her, Ray." He rubbed his temples. "What am I supposed to do? Kidnapping ain't exactly a great life plan." "You've changed," Donna said firmly. "You're not the man you were. Try telling that to a judge." "Then tell it to yourself." He looked up at her, eyes rimmed red. "I don't deserve her. Maybe she deserves you." The words hung between them like lightning waiting to strike. Morning came fast and cruel. The sky was pale gray, the kind that never brightens. Amira sat at the counter, dressed in the pink sweater Donna had given her. Her backpack was packed, the bear was in her lap. She didn't speak. When the county car pulled up again, the sound felt like a verdict. Marla came in quietly. "You ready, sweetheart?" Amira looked at Ray instead. "Can Button stay with you?" He blinked, throat too tight to answer. She pressed the bear into his hands. "Keep him safe, okay? He keeps secrets." Then she hugged him, small arms squeezing his neck. "I'll come back," she whispered. He managed to smile through the ache. "I'll be right here." Marla guided her gently outside. The car door closed with a soft thud. Ray stood frozen, the bear still in his hands, watching through the diner window as the car pulled away. He didn't move until the road was empty again, until the only sound left was the wind brushing over the prairie grass. Hours passed, the diner emptied, the afternoon sun sliding lower. Ray sat in the booth where Amira had slept, Button propped in front of him. The silence pressed down heavy, the kind that makes a man start hearing ghosts. He reached into the bear's pocket, absently, and his fingers touched something small and crumpled. He pulled it out, a folded piece of paper. When he opened it, his chest tightened. It was another drawing, newer than the first, 2 stick figures standing by a creek, one small, one tall. Above them in bright crayon letters, "Me and Ray, home now." He closed his eyes. His breath hitched once, then again. For the first time since his daughter's funeral, Ray Walker cried.
The next few days passed like a bad dream he couldn't wake from. Ray still showed up at the diner, still fixed whatever was broken, but his world had gone quiet inside. The road outside kept humming, trucks rolling past toward Wichita and farther still, but none of them called to him now. Button sat on the counter beside the register, one button eye missing, a silent witness to his waiting. Donna kept trying to fill the silence with noise, extra coffee, loud radio, easy talk about crops and weather, but Ray barely heard her. Then, 3 nights later, a letter came. It wasn't from Marla. The handwriting was clumsy, printed in thick crayon. He unfolded it slowly. "Dear Mr. Walker, the lady said my aunt is nice, but she smells like smoke. I miss pancakes. Button said you're sad. Don't be. I drawed you another rainbow. Love, Amira." A small drawing fell out, a rainbow over a house, the word home scrolled beneath it. He stared at it until the edges blurred. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his shirt pocket, where it stayed like a heartbeat. The next morning, he drove his truck east. No trailer, just the cab and the open road. The fields blurred by, and with them came every mile of memory. His daughter's laughter, his wife's voice, the sound of sirens years ago. He didn't know what he'd say when he got there, only that he couldn't sit still anymore. When he reached Dodge City, he found the address easily enough, a small tan duplex at the end of a gravel lane. He parked across the street and just sat there, engine idling. Through the window, he saw Amira in the yard, drawing chalk circles on the sidewalk. Her curls glowed in the late-day sun. A woman, her aunt, stood nearby on the porch, cigarette in one hand, phone in the other, not paying attention. Amira looked up suddenly. Her eyes found the truck. She froze. Then she smiled, slow and certain. Ray's heart kicked hard. He got out, walking up the drive, hat in hand. The aunt squinted at him. "Can I help you?" "Name's Ray Walker. Just came to check how she's doing." The woman looked him over. Oil-stained jeans, trucker's tan, tired eyes, and shrugged. "She's fine. County says I get a check next week." Something in his chest twisted. "She eating all right? Sleeping?" Yeah. Look, mister, I don't have time for—" But he was already kneeling, eye level with Amira. "Hey, kiddo." Her face lit up like sunrise. "You came!" "Told you I'd be right here." She threw her arms around him. He felt her small heartbeat against his chest, fast and certain. Behind them, the aunt groaned. "You the truck guy? They said you'd call first." "I ain't staying. Just needed to see your face." The woman shrugged again and went back to her phone. Amira tugged his sleeve. "You going again?" I crouched down. "I might, but I need to ask you something first." She tilted her head. He reached into his pocket and took out button. "He's been keeping secrets for me. You want to hear one?" Her eyes widened. "Yes!" He leaned close. "I'm gonna fight for you. Not run, not hide. Gonna do it the right way." She nodded solemnly, as if she understood every word. "Okay." He pressed the bear back into her hands. "You hang on to him. I'll come get you both soon." Back in El Dorado that night, he parked the truck behind the diner and sat in the dark cab until dawn streaked the horizon pink. Then he climbed out, walked straight to the payphone beside the gas pumps, and dialed Marla's number. She answered on the second ring. "Ray?" "Yeah, I need to know what it takes to apply for custody." There was a pause. "You sure about this?" "I've never been surer." "Then you'll need a steady address, proof of income, clean record. Whatever it takes, I'll do it." She exhaled, almost smiling through the line. "All right, come by the Wichita office tomorrow. We'll start the paperwork." When he hung up, the sun was rising over the prairie, turning the wheat fields gold, the same color as hope. Later that morning, Donna came out on the porch with 2 mugs of coffee. "You look like a man who made a decision." "I did. Told myself I'd never get tied down again. Guess I lied." She grinned. "About time." Ray looked out at the endless road cutting through El Dorado, sunlight flashing off the rails. For once, it didn't look like escape. It looked like a path home. Sometimes, the hardest road isn't the one that takes you away. It's the one that brings you back. If you've ever had to choose between running and staying, what did you pick? Share your story below.
6 months later, the prairie was green again. The wheat swayed high, the sky open and endless, the kind of blue that made you feel like maybe the world still had room for second chances. The diner had changed. Donna had repainted the trim a soft yellow, and a new sign out front read, "Button Stop Cafe." Locals kept asking why the name, and she'd just smile and say, "You had to be here." Inside, Ray worked the morning shift. He still drove sometimes, short hauls now, enough to pay the bills, not enough to vanish. He had papers taped to the wall behind the counter, his state CDL renewal, a foster certification, and one form stamped in big black letters, "Approved." It hadn't been easy. He'd spent weeks proving himself, to Marla, to the county, to a system that doubted him at every turn. But every time he wanted to quit, he'd pull that first crayon drawing out of his wallet and stare at the words, "Me and Ray, home now." That was his compass. The morning rush came and went, sunlight spilling through the front windows. Then a familiar sound cut through the clatter, small footsteps, the squeak of sneakers on tile.
Ray turned, already smiling. There she was, Amira with her curls tied in ribbons, holding Button under one arm and a drawing in the other. Marla followed behind, paperwork folder in hand. "You're early," Ray said, voice rough around the edges. Amira shrugged, grinning. "Button said you missed breakfast." Marla chuckled. "Everything's signed, Ray. She's yours to look after now." For a second, the words didn't register. Then they hit, heavy and bright. "She's yours." He nodded, blinking fast. "Thank you." Marla smiled softly. "You earned it." Then she left him to it, the bell above the door jingling as it closed. Amira climbed onto a stool and unfolded her new drawing. It showed a little girl, a man in a trucker's hat, and a big yellow building with the words Button Stop Cafe. Over them a rainbow again, this one wider, brighter. "You like it?" she asked. Ray looked at it for a long time before answering. "Yes, sweetheart, I love it." He pinned it to the wall behind the counter, right next to the approved form. Then he poured her a chocolate milk and himself a coffee. They clinked glasses like it was the finest toast in the world. That afternoon, he took her out to the river by the old bridge outside town. The water shimmered soft in the sunlight, and the wind carried the smell of grass and diesel. "This where you go fishing, Ammy?" asked. He nodded. "Used to. Figure it's time we start again." She crouched by the bank, dropping a pebble in. "What happens if we don't catch nothing?" He smiled. "Then we just wait. Sometimes the waitin's the best part." She looked up at him, thoughtful. "You waited for me." That one hit deep. "Yeah," he said quietly, "and I'd do it again." As the sun dipped low, they packed up and walked back toward the truck. Amira hummed to herself, holding his hand. For the first time in years, the silence between them felt full, alive. When they reached the diner, Donna was outside watering the flowers. She waved, eyes bright. "You two look like you caught the big one." Amira grinned. "Not yet, but we will." Ray helped her up the steps. "She's already got plans," he said. Donna laughed. "Of course she does." That night, when the diner was closed and the town quieted down, Ray sat at the counter again. Only this time, the seat beside him wasn't empty. Amira had fallen asleep, head resting on her folded arms, Button tucked under her chin. Outside, a freight train rolled past, its whistle long and low, a sound that used to make him ache. Now, it just sounded like peace. He reached into his pocket and pulled out that old note she'd written months ago. "Don't be sad. Button said you're sad." He smiled faintly, tucking it back. "Not anymore, kiddo," he whispered. The neon sign outside flickered softly, Button Stop Cafe glowing against the Kansas night. And for the first time in a long time, Ray Walker knew exactly where home was. Sometimes the family we find is stronger than the one we're born into. If you believe love can build new homes out of broken roads, tell us below. Would you have fought for her too?
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you loved this story, you will definitely love the next one. It's more intriguing than you can ever imagine. So go ahead and watch it now. Click on the image on your screen right away to watch the next one. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It helps and encourages us to share the best human interest stories you'd love.